2,000, not 1,000, 2,000.
I'll tell you what, man, you better make it to the postseason if you've got those kind of aspirations. You better start carrying the football a lot more, too.
That one goes out of bounds. That'll come out to the 35 if the Bears so choose, which I would assume that would be their decision.
Free kick out of bounds. Number 19 of the kicking team. Ball will be placed at the 35. First down.
So 1:03 to go, and we have 800 yards of offense. 884 yards of offense.
Just hard to wrap your brain around that one.
And you've got a pretty big brain.
I got a big head. I don't know how big the brain is inside of it.
They'll swing it near side. Here's Mason, the true freshman, tripped up at the 30. I'm just going to let that go.
I teed it up for you. Thank goodness it's near the end of the half, so I'm safe. Nice play by Caleb Pruitt right there. There's a name we haven't mentioned a lot in this game, frankly. He's playing a position that generated the most tackles for the Missouri defense a year ago.
Over the middle, nice grab. Malik Earl, but lost the football, and the Bears trying to fall on it. It's still scrambled. And let's see who comes up with it. Bears will have it. They will spot it back inside the 40.
Once again, though, confusion in the Missouri secondary. He possesses that football, no question. Completes the catch. So that ball came shooting out of there.
But that'll do it, though. For the first half of football, is about as bizarre a half as you could imagine. But Missouri will take the lead into the locker room. They lead by 13, 48-35. Incredible numbers. Time for us to get to the disco and send it to Peter Burns. It's all yours, buddy.
All right, thank you, Dave Neal. Welcome into the SEC football halftime report. It feels like a basketball. I know people are excited about Missouri basketball. You got that score right now, 48-35. Peter Burns, Coach Gene Chizik, Chris Doring with me. What did we do?
We saw some very poor defense and some explosive offense. Don't want to take anything away from that side of the ball, but I'll be with you. I'm going to sound like I'm being a little pickier. The fact that Drew Lock has thrown for almost 400 yards, I still think he could have been sharper. He missed a couple throws, made a bad choice on a deep ball that was intercepted. But the majority of the yards that they have on offense belong to the receivers after the catch. A lot of short throws and guys making plays with athleticism, Coach.
That's all I can say.
Your defensive coordinator at heart, and you just, are you okay with this? Is it football for you?
It's hurting me sitting here, okay? So Barry Odom right now, there is chalk flying right now in that room. I'm telling you right now, they're trying to. This is not an exotic offense, guys. They're running 200-year-old plays. But what you're seeing is a soft middle of the defense. Same problem they had last year. You're seeing wide receivers, you're seeing busted coverages, you're seeing receivers down the field wide open. So you're looking at an offense of Missouri State that I'm sure they prepared for. It's nothing new. It's nothing exotic. They're just having a hard time stopping it, and right now this is a head scratch.
To me, it's a lack of discipline, though, by that Missouri defense. It's an overly aggressive bunch of guys, and you see that sometimes in the first game. You know, guys wanting to come out, make big plays, especially against an opponent that you feel like is maybe below your level of competition. And right now, you're seeing guys getting killed on the misdirection. Missouri State's doing a nice job of keeping them off balance with that, but they got to get back to playing their assignments and trusting the other 10 guys around them.
You're talking about what Barry Odom had to say. Don Davenport just caught up with him.
Well, Coach, I just saw you address your team. What was your message to them?
Obviously really excited about how offensively they came out and played, explosive all over the place. Defensively, looked about as poor as we could, and that's my fault. So got to get it fixed, stay together. It's 0-0, come out and find a way to win it.
What specifically has to change defensively?
This thing, we got to get our eyes in the right spot. I've got to open up the calls a little bit. Pretty vanilla, so we'll change that up a little bit.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks.
All right, obviously some good, some bad. Coach, what
He spun that well, though.
I was going to say, hey, listen.
Smiling on the outside, crying on the inside.
Yeah, because there are FCC violations you get if you get really too front with the camera. Chiz, what's being said in that locker room right here, right now, about making those adjustments against Missouri State?
Well, first of all, I'm starting with the middle of the defense. Where's Terry Beckner? You know, we've been talking about him for, you know, the whole offseason.
We see him on the stat sheet, Coach?
I mean, he's not on the stat sheet that I know about. Now, you know, Rashad Brandon, he's showing up a little bit. Cale Garrett, he's showing up a little bit. But the middle of the defense is non-existent right now. What they have to do is they have to stop the running game first, because what's happening is they're having a hard time stopping the run, and now your play-action passes vertically down the field are becoming wide open with busted coverages, with people stepping up, playing the run because they've got to stop the run. So there's issues right now that have to be handled schematically, but also it's time to go in there and say, hey, look, guys, this is 2016 reincarnated.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to step up to the plate on defense and be a player, and it's got to start in the middle of the defense.
The idea in a game like this is you get a chance to play a bunch of guys, evaluate a little bit. It's almost like a preseason game in the NFL, ideally, but right now they're just trying to win this football game, and unfortunately, Drew Lock's going to be in this game well into the third quarter at the rate this is going.
You know what? And he's going to set his school record. He's got 5 touchdowns right now. He had that against Delaware State last year. That school record is 5 touchdowns in one game. I'm sure he'll get that in the second half. You want to catch the Marching Mizzou Band halftime performance on the SEC Network Plus. And Chris Doring, that was a game, that first half, you would have loved as a wide receiver.
No question about that. Putting up stats.
And I hated it.
I know exactly.
I'd have hated it.
All right. Mr. Drew Lock, he is 15 of 21 in the first half. This is one of his touchdowns, 393 yards. We start breaking down SEC other games coming up next on the SEC Halftime Report.
I believe they're the 2 best teams in the country. And I think the first game that we see in Atlanta will be the national championship.
We're going to find out who you are really fast, who's going to step up when things get rough, or who's going to win the plays are getting difficult.
You never find out about your team until you go play a good team, and we're certainly going to play a good team in Florida State.
Play every play with great toughness, effort, discipline, pride. Line up and play. Do your job. That's what it's going to take.
Just lean back and let it go. Just lean back and let it go.
Safety Derwin James. This young man is a difference maker.
I'm the vocal leader. Vocal leader. I can lead actions. Anything you need.
Play, spin, sing. Inside the box.
Just lock them gates. When we come in, they come in. Lock the gates. It's time to play.
They are calling it the GOAT, the greatest opener of all time, Florida State, Alabama. Gentlemen, I think it's safe to say we will not see 83 points scored in the first half of that one.
No.
Chiz, what do you look at to be kind of the big difference maker in this one?
I think the storyline in any big game is always what's happening in the interior of the offense and defensive lines. I think, bottom line, that's where every game starts. To me, the storyline gets really interesting because you've got an offensive line at Florida State that if they're going to be a Final Four team, they have to play better than they did last year. Last year, they gave up 36 sacks, guys. That's unacceptable. You can't be a Final Four team and do that. Conversely, look at Alabama. Alabama led the country with 54 sacks. And you can say that, yeah, well, Alabama lost their front, so many people in their front seven.
They do every single year.
They do every year. But here's the other thing. It wasn't just because they were so much better than everybody, they beat everybody on one-on-one blocks. Nick does a phenomenal job of scheming up protections. Florida State can't win this game without throwing the ball. They have to be able to throw the football. We know Alabama's run defense is going to be what it always is. Great. So in order for them to win the game, Florida State's got to be able to throw it. Nick's been with Jimbo. He's been in the meeting rooms with Jimbo. He's going to have some blitzes and some pressures dialed up. That's where it's going to get.
You're exactly right, too. I think that is the key to the game because if you look at teams that moved the ball against Alabama's defense last year, it was through the air. Very difficult to run against these guys historically. But even more important, if they can block and allow Francois to have some time, I like this receiving core for Florida State. Some big guys. You got Auden Tate, who's 6'5", 225. Keith Gavin, he's another guy, 6'3", 225. Nyquan Murray's not as big, but can go up and get the ball. And the last time we saw this secondary for Alabama, they gave up 420 yards in the air. And if there's one thing that I don't like about those guys, they do not play the ball in the air very well. This will be a talented receiving core that'll give them a challenge tonight.
And spoiler alert, you think Alabama loses this game?
I'm taking Florida State. It's not easy for me to say as a Florida guy, as an SEC guy, but I think Florida State wins this football game.
Another ACC-SEC matchup. What to watch for in this one's going to be North Carolina State versus South Carolina. This is a fun group to watch. A really kind of intriguing matchup here in Charlotte. What do you look into this one for?
It's a similar thing to what Coach Chiz just said right there. It's about that offensive line of South Carolina and the defensive front for North Carolina State. This is one of the best front four in the entire country. And if you remember last year, South Carolina had a difficult time protecting the quarterback. They were 119th in sacks allowed. I think that's where the difference is.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And again, you're looking at Jake Bentley. So he put up some decent numbers last year.
And he wants to find this guy Hayden Hurst a lot.
He's got to. But again, it goes back to the same thing we just talked about. North Carolina State has the best front seven they've had probably in the last 4 or 5 years. Can they block them? Can they establish a running game? Last year, Florida State waltzes into NC State. Dalvin Cook rushes for 65 yards. So you're looking at a front seven right now that is extreme, physical, downhill. They bank and they hang their hat on stopping the run. So again, it's going to come down to the lines of scrimmage.
Rico Dowdle, Tyson Williams, A.J. Turner, those guys are going to have to run the rock for South Carolina.
It doesn't do you any good if you can't block up front, though. You can have weapons galore, which South Carolina does.
Which Georgia football last year having Nick Chubb.
Exactly. If you can't protect, if you can't move guys off the line of scrimmage, your weapons are useless.
Well, an unbelievable weapon that we saw in this conference is getting his own SEC story. That's Mr. George Rogers.
Did you ever dream of the possibility of winning the Heisman someday?
I really did. I never thought I'd even be a candidate. I couldn't believe it, I had so many things going against me. We was 8-3, and I didn't know if they'd pick an 8-3 team, to even win it, but we won it. And all it was team effort. All we should go to so hard.
I know what the Heisman Trophy, nothing like that. It was a team thing to me. It's always a team award. I'm just a small town boy from Duluth, Georgia, country boy. That right there is for the guys that I played with. Those guys made me look good.
He's one of my favorite characters in the SEC. King George, SEC Storied, premieres Tuesday, September the 5th, 9 p.m. A lot more football coming up around this great conference, including Jim McElwain getting off the bus. 10 players on his squad will not make that. You can spread out a little bit more.
Big guys get 2 seats.
This offense, that's what we'll say, 393 yards, 48-35. Mizzou.
6'7". Hey, Ron, he's a or if the mic was right here, where would he throw it? Well, either way, great job. All eyes up. First day, good to be back out here, good to get moving, okay? We have 28 more practice. That's a bunch before we got to go play a game. Just to be worried about one thing. How hard can I myself? It'll end up taking care of itself, right? We got time. You worry about how hard you can go. I guarantee you, we're going to be a great football team.
About 2 hours till kickoff for Nick Fitzgerald and Dan Mullen's Bulldogs against Charleston Southern. We got you covered here. And then after that, the Nightcap, SEC Saturday Night, presented by Holiday Inn Express. Jared Stidham's show starts 7:30 p.m. Eastern today. All right, what to watch for in this one? Michigan versus Florida, your former squad, Chris Doering.
Well, I think obviously this is a game to see who's going to step up offensively with Antonio Callaway out and Jordan Scarlett. Got to have some guys step up.
Holly Rowe caught up with Coach Jim McElwain as soon as he got off the bus.
Well, Coach, we have heard so much about the guys who aren't here today. What sense do you get from the guys who are here that they have a point to prove and overcome this adversity?
Well, I just know how excited they are to come out and play. And, man, in a place like this, I mean, how can you not have a good time doing it?
What do you remember about your first start for Eastern Washington as a quarterback, and what might be going through Felipe Franks for his first college start?
Well, I know this. I have a lot more confidence in Felipe than my coach probably had in me. I know that.
What do you expect from him to kind of settle down and get in a rhythm?
Well, I think the big thing for us is to give him a little time back there and, you know, try to make sure he understands that really the big thing is he doesn't have to go out and do it himself, but rather let the guys around him help him.
Sounds good, Coach. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
That's his stick. It's kind of cool. We're playing football. It's worked for him. Back-to-back trips to Atlanta. 10 players suspended for this game, Coach. Felipe Franks, the starting quarterback. Which plays a bigger role in this one?
Well, I can tell you right now, you have a locker room full of guys. You remember it, CD. They're tired of hearing about who's not playing.
Yeah.
You got 75 scholarship guys who are playing. Let's talk about those guys. And you're looking at phenomenal opportunities for guys, right? Felipe Franks, yes, it's his first start. You got Malik Zaire. Maybe he's going to get the nod at someplace in the deal. But the bottom line is you have a lot of players that are they're eager. They've been working 8 months to get ready to play for this game. Look, bottom line is Florida's got a lot of good players. They got team speed. They're too deep everywhere. And they might be young and you might not have heard of them yet, but this is where the C.C. Jeffersons, the Duke Dawsons, the Goolsbys, all these guys, the guys that have played, they got to step up to the plate right now. Ivy, an offensive line guy who's saying, hey, I've been blocking my rear end off, man. It's time for us to play. They can't wait to play this game.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about this, too, is for Felipe Franks, hadn't started a game yet, going in against an opponent against Michigan, probably tempted to want to throw the ball a ton and make plays himself. But as you mentioned, there's a ton of talent around him. He needs to be a game manager. He needs to be a guy that distributes the ball to the playmakers, doesn't try to push too hard, doesn't put his defense in bad situations with poor throws that lead to short field situations. So I'm interested to see how mature he can be with staying in the offense, going through his progressions, throwing the ball. He's not there.
I'm just impressed. If the team can be as together as you, I think
blue and black.
Florida's going to be in pretty good shape. Our SEC Nation, we're down there. Here's the best of nation.
We need the technique. How do you put this on?
It's always north and south. Okay. You don't yank it down because it's a dress cap.
Man. And I love a Johnsonville sausage. Thank you to my man.
Freak of the week.
All ESPN coming live on the ESPN app. Download now and take ESPN everywhere.
You got that Missouri's defense. They gave up 30. They're still up 13. Second half. Come after the break.